All right, so we'll go ahead and get started at least with introductions here. Just one moment here. I'm going to share my screen. Can you all see my screen? Awesome, perfect. And a moment here. Perfect. So thank you so much for joining us this evening. I really appreciate you guys taking out of the time out of your evening to stop by and learn a little bit about how to prepare for a virtual career fair. My name is Chelsea Parsons. I've been with GEICO for a little over 9 years. I actually started out in our claims, liability claims department. I did that for about 5 years before transferring into human resources to do the role that I do now. So I'm a college recruiter. I specifically recruit for our Fredericksburg, Virginia office. I'll touch at the end of the presentation on the roles that I specifically recruit for. Throughout the presentation, feel free to type any questions that you have in the chat. At the end, I'll run through the chat really quick and answer any questions that you might have. And then after the presentation too, I'll stick around if you guys have any additional questions, if they're pertaining closely to GEICO or anything related to a virtual career fair. So first and foremost, a couple of things about what we're going to be going over today. Virtual career fairs, how you can prep before the career fair, what to do during the career fair, and then how to handle any follow-up after the career fair. And then I'm going to briefly touch on virtual interviewing as well, just kind of ties into that kind of that follow-up with virtual career fairs. I believe you guys have a secondary info session that's going to be specifically on virtual interviewing, so I'm not going to spend too much time on that, but I'm happy to answer any questions afterwards as well. So what can you do before the career fair? So the biggest thing that you need to do is you need to prepare, okay? So there's a lot of different types of platforms out there right now. I know that Virginia Tech uses Brazen. That's one of my personal favorites. Actually, I did a couple of different career fairs last semester, and Brazen, I think, was the easiest one to use. I know a couple different schools did have some glitches as they were going through, but everyone was learning. And that's the big thing too, is that everyone is learning right now. You know, last semester was the first semester that really recruiters did everything 100% virtual. So we understand that there's some technical difficulties. We're all still learning here. Hopefully everything will run a little bit more smoothly this semester everywhere, but just keep that in mind, is that we're understanding that this virtual world is different and we're adjusting and adapting just like you guys are. But in regards to platforms, make sure you do your research on the platform that your career fair is going to be through. So for Brazen, I know that they have a lot of useful videos that you can use as a recruiter and on the student side too, just to see how the platform works. They can also have opportunities for you to test your technology to make sure that it is clear and good to go for the career fair day. Some of these platforms too, I'm not 100% positive about Brazen, but some of these platforms, if you do any additional career fairs through other platforms, do mock career fairs too. So you can get a good idea of what the career fair is going to be like when you go live next week. So I would look into that as well. So preparing for the actual career fair, you're going to prepare for the career fair just like you would do an in-person fair. So you're going to research, you're going to see who are all the employers that are going to be there. What booths do I specifically want to stop by? There's a limited amount of time to be able to talk to the recruiters there. So you want to do your research, okay? Brazen, now you can log in there and look through the different employers that are going to be attending. Look through those employer booths, see what jobs they're going to be hiring for. Take a look at the employer websites to see what are you most interested in. Make a list of your top, 5 to 10 places that you know that you really want to go to and what specifically you're going to talk to them about there. The other thing is you want to make sure that you have your resume ready, right? So in Brazen, you can upload your resume before the career fair. So when you get into the queue and you're in the line talking to the recruiter for that specific company, they'll be able to be reviewing your resume at the same time that they're speaking to you. So I think that's really helpful when I'm talking to a student through Brazen, that I'm able to review their resume very quickly beforehand too. So make sure you upload it if you haven't already before the event begins. Make sure you have someone proofread it and make sure it has all that correct information on there prior to doing that as well. Again, going into the research of the employers that are attending the fair. know who's attending, know what positions are available, and what specific questions you really want to ask those specific employers that are attending. I can't tell you how many times I will get into a career fair and students will come up to me and ask me, so what positions are you hiring for? Well, I have a ton of different positions that I'm hiring for. What specifically are you looking for? So it's really good if you have that time to do the research and kind of know exactly what you're looking for or an idea of the type of position, so I can kind of direct the conversation with you to what would be the best position that fit for you. The other thing that I want to mention is doing that research will also have you stand out to employers as well. So when I am talking to a student in the booth and they're telling me like, oh, I did all this research and I found out that GEICO is the second largest auto insurer in the country, and this is what specifically you're hiring for in your Fredericksburg office. That really stands out to me as an employer, and I'm going to mark down like, hey, this was a great candidate. They really did their research. They were prepared. They had questions that were relating to the jobs that I was hiring for, and they were ready to go. The other thing to mention is that in Brazen, you only have a set amount of time to talk to these recruiters. So make sure that you do have that information ready to go so you can kind of stand out amongst the others. I know that that's hard in this virtual world to be standing out to everyone. So this is really comes in the back end, doing that research and everything to stand out in that short amount of time that you have with the recruiters. Beforehand, you want to be making sure that you get your room, your area in order. Make sure there's not a ton of, background distractions, things like that. If you have a roommate and you're going to be at the career fair, make sure you let them know, hey, I'm going to be attending the career from this time to this time. So maybe you guys can make a schedule to make sure that there's no outside distractions in the background. As you can see, I'm just kind of sitting in my dining room here and have a blank wall behind me. Another thing you could look into is some of the career services. I know for some of the campuses that I work for offer those like the Zoom backgrounds that you can use. If you don't have like a distraction-free environment, you could have those Zoom background there as well. Again, preparing just like it was an in-person career fair, you're going to dress for success. So make sure business professional dress for the career fair next week. You're going to be making sure that you're checking your internet connections as well. Goes back to that technology, making sure that there's no issues. If there are issues, make sure you have the information of who you should contact if you have any issues, any technical difficulties before the career fair. So you know exactly who you can reach out and email if you're having any issues logging on, things like that. And then again, going back to that distraction-free environment, making sure that you're fully focused on the career fair at hand. So when you do get in the queue and it's your time to talk to that recruiter, it is your time to shine. So during the career fair, best thing you can do first and foremost, introduce yourself. Make sure you have a positive attitude. You're going to have all that resume ready that we already talked about, already uploaded into Brazen. And then you're going to have your questions set aside too of what you want to ask that specific employer. Again, make sure you're trying to catering your questions to the employer or the position that you're most interested in. We're going to go through a sample introduction in just a second. But again, just making sure that you're hitting the key points. In Brazen too, if you're doing the chat function versus video, so say you're not video chatting with the recruiter, you're just IMing kind of back and forth, you can save a template that's introducing yourself too. So I really recommend utilizing those. It's really helpful on the recruiter end too. If you're asking about a specific position, I can kind of copy and paste really quick out, hey, this is what this position talks to you about. So you can get the information quickly. A lot of times during the fair, some of the fairs that I did last semester is that it was kind of a delay in a typing back and forth. So I would encourage kind of the video chat. If you can, if you're having technical difficulties though, and you can't video chat, just making sure that you're utilizing that template save option in Brazen. So you can just copy and paste your introduction and what you're looking for so you can get right to the point when you're starting to talk to those recruiters. Since we do have that limited amount of time, I think it's 7 to 10 minutes. We can extend the time, of course, on the recruiter end, but it's just something to think about and a good way to prepare. If you just create like a quick little Word document that has the different blurbs that you might want to say or have questions ready to ask to the employers. And then during the event, before you end your conversation with that specific recruiter, make sure you get their follow-up information so you can send them a quick follow-up, whether you're going to be contacting them on LinkedIn, sending them a follow-up, a thank you email, whatever it may be. Make sure you get that information. I try to remind students as a recruiter, when I'm getting ready to wrap up the conversation with the students, hey, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. That's really helpful too, just so you can send a quick message. I know that Brazen makes it really easy too. I think there's like a LinkedIn button. You can just click and go right to LinkedIn, to that recruiter specific LinkedIn, and just say in the LinkedIn message, hey, met you during Business Horizons. It was great to meet you. Just connecting now for follow-up. So let's get into a quick sample introduction. So when you're in the virtual career fair, even an in-person career fair, this is a really good, easy sample introduction that kind of hits the points that we're looking for as a recruiter. So I'll read it. My name is Gary GEICO. I'm a junior major in digital marketing with an emphasis on branding. Currently a vice president of our business club on campus. My goals are to find an internship within my major, create meaningful connections, and get hands-on experience. So me as a recruiter, I know exactly what you're looking for. I know what you're majoring in, and I can cater our conversation directly to roles that would fit best with you within the company and the organization. And then from there, the conversation, of course, will take off once we're talking a little bit more about the specific internship that I think might be a best fit for you, or the full-time role, whatever it may be. But this is a good brief introduction. Again, something that you can copy and paste directly into Brazen as one of those templates. Just you're starting off the conversation, you know exactly what you're looking for at this employer, copy and paste, good to go, and it takes less than 5 seconds. So some questions. We talked about preparing some questions for the different employers that you're going to be talking to during the career fair as well. So these are some sample questions of things that you might want to ask the recruiter. What's the best part of your job? What sort of projects are you working on now? What's the office like? So that could be a little bit different right now since we're all in this COVID world. I'm currently working remotely. I've been working remotely since March. But that's another follow-up question to ask is, what does that working remotely look like? How long will that last? Some of the questions that you might ask recruiters in regards to COVID, their answers might be a little bit vague. I will kind of give you that as a heads up. We're taking this day by day too. So for GEICO specifically, we're work from home until March 1st that we know of right now, but could be extended, not sure. So we could talk to you specifically about, you know, what it has been like for the last 10 to 12 months. Other good questions here. What has changed the most about the field since you started? Who else should I make sure I talk to at this event or connect with? I think that's a really good question for the recruiter is, do you have any other contact information for other people that have been in this position, or maybe are alumni of Virginia Tech that currently hold this position that I could reach out to on LinkedIn and get a conversation started as well? So those are just a few questions to kind of get you started if you're not sure exactly what to talk to the recruiter about once they've kind of given you the rundown on the specific position that you're looking for. So you've done a great job, you've attended the career fair, you prepared for the career fair, you killed it when you're talking to all those recruiters, and now what do you do after the career fair? So you want to follow up with your recruiter, thank them for talking to you. If you had a great conversation, you talked about something extremely random, bring that up. Hey, I'm the student that you spoke to. I remember I talked to a candidate at Virginia Tech once about a specific Starbucks drink that we order. And that was just she sent me a thank you follow up after the career fair. And I remembered exactly who she was because we had that random conversation. So any little tidbits of things that you might talk to the recruiter about, include that so they know exactly who you are when you send that follow-up. And again, connecting on LinkedIn too. Most of the students that I connected with at Business Horizons last semester, they were sending me a connection on LinkedIn almost immediately after I had said, make sure you connect with me on LinkedIn. That way you can get all the updates too about what we're doing on campus, well, virtually on campus, or the different positions that we're applying for and then posting. And then the next step after would be to apply for that specific position. So whatever position you spoke to that recruiter about, if you feel that it's a great fit for you, time to apply. And in your thank you email to the recruiter, you can say, hey, we talked about X position. I've just applied. Looking forward to hearing back from you on what I can do to be a standout candidate. So virtual interviewing, briefly. This would be after the career fair as well. So you did a great job, you've applied for the position, and now you've been offered an interview from the recruiter. So a couple things you're going to do very similar to what you've done to prepare for that virtual career fair. So you're going to be testing your technology, make sure that the internet connection works, make sure your video camera works. A lot of the companies are using video interviewing websites. We have a specific one called Modern Hire. So that one allows the candidate to go in early, test all of their connections, make sure everything works well. Dress professional, just like you did for the career fair. You're going to be dressing in a business professional for that interview. You're going to be preparing in advance. So making sure that you're rereading that job description that you've applied for. Make sure you know exactly what position you applied for. I can tell you a million times I've interviewed a lot of candidates that when I ask them, so what do you specifically know about the job? Oh, not much. So make sure you're prepared. You've done that research. You know what the position is, and you really stand out to recruiters the more you know and the more that you've researched. Again, limiting distractions. Make sure you're in a quiet environment. Again, if you don't have that no distractions in the background, you can use one of those Zoom backgrounds. You'll have use professional body language. So when you first start out the interview, you know, a friendly wave is good. You're helping to build that rapport with the recruiter. You don't want to be all like slouched in your chair or sitting on your couch, anything like that. Make sure you're sitting up straight, just in your room or wherever you are, that you have a distraction-free environment. And then make sure you're being authentic. Be yourself throughout these interviews. We're really looking for the candidates that are to be the best fit for our company. We want you to feel as welcome. We want to make you feel very welcome. So be authentic and be yourself when you're going through those interview processes. So a few takeaways here. I know that a lot of this stuff was a little bit repetitive as we were going through, but it's all very important. So making sure that you are preparing for the event. So you're doing your research on those companies. You're doing the research on the positions at those companies. You're preparing questions that you might have for that specific employer. And then you're preparing your resume as well as those brief introductions that we had talked about too. So make sure you're preparing those little quick blurbs that you can kind of copy and paste throughout the career fair as well. Distraction-free environment, we just touched on that. You're being professional, professionally dressed. You got that resume uploaded. You've already had it reviewed, maybe by career services or a mentor that you have, or a peer as well. And then you're going to follow up as well. So after you've completed the career fair, you're going to follow up with those recruiters, make sure you're making those connections. You're really standing out above the other candidates, and then even following up after interviews too. So a thank you note goes a long way for a lot of the members of management that I specifically work with too. And just a quick GEICO plug on some of the positions that we have. What I specifically hire for in our GEICO Fredericksburg office, I hire for our management development program, which is a fast track into supervision. And we have 4 different tracks: sales, customer service, claims, and auto damage. As you can see on the slide, our auto damage tracks are not in Fredericksburg. They are in Philadelphia, Baltimore, Rockville, and Washington, D.C. right now. But they are all fast tracks to supervision. It's usually about 1 year to 3 years, depending on which track you choose. Basically, we provide you all of the training and everything that you need. You have a management mentor, and then you're fast tracked into a leadership role. Right now, we're also hiring for our business leadership summer internship in our Fredericksburg office. That's kind of a behind the scenes look into the insurance industry. So you get to work with our sales, customer service, claims, and auto damage departments. You're working on real life business projects. They're based on business and department need, but they are real life problems or issues that we might be experiencing as a company that we're looking to improve or change. So you all as the interns do all the research, you come up with solutions to those problems and present your findings to management. And if management likes what you've come up with, it might potentially be implemented into the program, which is pretty cool. Our internship is actually designed to lead into our full-time leadership development program. So it's designed to lead in either to our management development program or another program that we have that's called our Emerging Leaders Program. It's a fast track into management. And then I also hire for our entry-level customer contact positions within our Fredericksburg office. So those are sales, customer service, and claims as well. I'm happy to speak on any of those additional opportunities once we've concluded everything here. But that's the main points that I wanted to hit on for you. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing my screen in just a second so I can read through the chat to see if you guys have any questions. I'm happy to hang out here a little bit longer as well after the presentation if you have any other follow-up questions too. Again, I really want to thank you guys so much for coming out this evening. I really, really appreciate it.